On my last Basics of Python video, I realized I forgot the for statement that is used in creating control structures. And along with that too, it's also helpful if I discuss the range function. It's a built-in function, but it can use a brush over in using for. While you can get around it using while loops, for is pretty good for what it does. For is basically like for each in many other languages. So we're going to dig in, look at this, and take a look here. Range and for. So what happens over here is range returns an array. And I'm going to discuss a bit about exactly how that happens, because there are three different ways that you can call range to get arrays. So the first one is with a single argument, and that is any of the other ones that have more than one argument, it would be the second argument that you're entering. So you can basically call it with the second argument as the first argument if you only have one argument. Now that argument right there that's been highlighted, that is the end point for your array. However, it is excluding that. So if you were going to create a roll of the dice, and you're going to say range 6, just past the one parameter of 6, it will not output that last element into that array. It is, and it's actually a list. What it creates, you can tell, it's got that parenthesis value here. So this is a list because Python doesn't really do arrays, but it is a part of an iterable type structure. So it's going to return me a list of numbers, and so this is useful in creating the for, which I'll discuss shortly. So this is the endpoint, but it will not give me my last number. So if I just entered range 2 and ended it there, I would get 0 and I would get 1, but I would not get 2, because it by default starts from 0. However, with 2 arguments, I can change that. My first argument is where I start from. As we can see, we started off getting a 2 in here, and we went down excluding -1. Now, how does it know? And that's this one here. This is your endpoint. So it went down to this -1, the middle -1. So it's not going to return me -1. It will return me including the start, which by default is 0, and it will return me each number excluding my last number. And then my last argument is my step. So if I wanted to have every other number returned, I would enter 2. In this case, I'm counting backwards, so I entered -1. I want to decrease by 1 per each one. And that returns me a list of numbers. Now, lists, sets, all those other things are very useful down here on a for loop. For the variable, in this case, I'm dealing with a list. This is a function that returns a list. So for each, for every single time this runs, it's like a for each in most other languages. It is going to have A become one of the elements of this array, of this, whatever that be, that list, that set, whatever I actually have there. In this case, I have a list, a function returning a list. It will be a list. And for each item in there, it will turn this A into that item. So I'm just going to print those out. And that's where you can see that was the return from the range output. But this is how we return that. So it just starts counting back from 2 down to 0, because that's what range returned. So that's how those control structures work.
Thank you for watching.